for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock, although it feels like 7 o'clock. And it is time for episode 248 of the Ron and Brian podcast. Brian, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing splendid. I'm doing absolutely splendid. I had a great weekend. I spent it with some people that I love and care about that I hadn't seen in a little bit, in a hot minute, as they like to say. So it was. I am cresting this Sunday evening, irregardless of what time it is.
Irregardless. All right. Good to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. You want to just get right into things? We've got a jam-packed show today. We just should really get right into it.
We're going to run out of things. We're going to run out of time. But the one thing that is most important is that I find out, what are you drinking?
Drink of the week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the week.
Sláinte.
Prost.
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
Brian, you first, my friend. What are you drinking today?
I am going with the tried, the true, Guinness in a bottle. Let me see how this is. I haven't had Guinness in a bottle for a while. Everybody knows. To me, Guinness has always been it's a pub beer.
Right.
You get it. You get it poured out of a keg. You get that draft's flavor. But I've poured this glass. That's right. It's a beer, people. This is not coffee. This isn't soda. This is Guinness, which is like beer. It's a dry Irish stout. Although to the initiated, it may look dark and heavy, it actually tastes deliciously light and smooth, swirling with notes of roast barley, caramel, coffee, and chocolate. The net result is a flavorful stout that's as approachable as a lager, which has long been one of the world's great pub beers. Coming in at 4.2 ABV, this, ladies and gentlemen, is Guinness Draft.
I've always been a fan of it, obviously on tap, but I find the cans and the bottles aren't too bad either.
Oh, this isn't bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think that little nitrous cartridge they put in there to give it that whatever the gas infusion is, tends to work well.
It's much better than the lactose that you like to put into your beers.
You're not a fan of lactose. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure why you persecute me over it, but hey, this is you. This is who you've decided to be, and that's just how it is.
Ron?
Yes.
What are you drinking?
I went for a twofer this week, Brian. I hope you don't mind me indulging myself. You all came down for my birthday weekend, and I received some gifts that were alcohol of nature. One from our good friends, the Jardis, from Levante Brewing Company out of Westchester. They're cloudy and cumbersome IPA. It's a New England style IPA. It clocks in at a 5.9%. It's actually one of my go-to IPAs if I'm out and I'm feeling like an IPA, and it's on tap. I'm going to drink that cloudy and cumbersome.
Oh, that looks cloudy. That looks cloudy. One time I was in Mexico and I drank the water, and what I was expelling kind of had a similar transparency.
You had a cloudy and cumbersome, Brian. What were your thoughts?
No, more importantly, you answer, Ron.
Oh,
what do you think of this beer?
Not too hoppy, not too bitter. It's nice and smooth, good body, good flavor. Again, one that I'm going to drink when I'm drinking more than one.
I will say this. It was one of the few IPAs where I sat there and I said to myself, I would drink a second one of these.
There you go. That's saying something.
Absolutely.
And then you were nice enough, sir, you and your lady, to get me a bottle of Espolón Cristalino, 100% agave tequila from Mexico. So
also keep in mind, that is the opposite of your cloudy IPA. That thing is almost completely see-through.
I mean, it is like, I've got my big ass ice cube in there because I do like it on ice. So this is my very first try. I just cracked the bottle open this evening.
And let's see. does he like?
Oh, that's good.
Is it?
Yeah, you
All
chose
right.
well, my friend.
All right, good. Good. You know, my new thing as I've gotten a little older in life is let the experts do the work for you.
Sure.
You know, I walked into a liquor store where I have received some good advice in the past on some whiskeys, on some bottles of wine, whatnot. So I walked in there, I described the situation. I said that my friend is a tequila fan. I want to impress. I do not want to get anything that I believe he already has.
Right?
And I also don't want something that I have seen influencers drinking at clubs. Because he went to that large white and blue bottle,
Ah.
and I just was like, no, no, no. I was like, my friend's not 22 female, who's what do you call it? Got an OnlyFans. I said, this has to be about the flavor of this.
Mhm.
So you're enjoying.
Yeah, I mean, it
Okay.
is not bitter, doesn't sting, but gives you that nice warmth you want from a nice sipping
Mm.
tequila. So I will be enjoying this bottle. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. That makes
All
me
right.
happy. And
Uh,
also,
yeah.
Ron, what are you wearing?
What am I wearing? Well, you were also nice enough to buy me a "The Champ is Here" T-shirt, which I'm wearing this evening.
Yes.
And as we discussed, you bought it with the thoughts that maybe I would still have the title belt. But even though I don't have the belt, I think being a champion is a state of mind, not just a title.
Exactly. You're the champ of your home.
Yes,
You will be champ again. I mean,
I'm the champ of this
statistically,
box on the left of your screen.
of course. You still pull most of the punches. You know, I think it's gonna be, I think one of the things that people on the podcast have seen so far during my reign is that you know, I'm a little looser, you know, than your approach to the championship. I'm a little bit more allowing of others.
Right.
I very much want to create a space where people are seen, you know, feel like they're being heard. I don't want to necessarily say a safe space, but you know,
We're close
not
to it.
one where close to it, but
Yeah.
not one where an autocrat is making dictatorial rules that all must follow.
right.
So I just want you to know you're still champ in my mind.
All right. Well, thank you. Let's get it moving on. It's time for Beef of the Week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
Okay. One of the stories that has been going on pretty much over the past, I would say, 3 days has been the Silicon Valley Bank. That is, I believe it had been ranked the 16th largest bank in the country. Within the past 3 days, experiencing a run on deposit withdrawals. Being borderline insolvent, and federal regulators on Friday shut it down, basically not allowing it to be in business anymore, acting as a financial institution. And one of the things right off the bat you were starting to see were sob stories. Now, this bank had specialized in funding startups in technology companies.
Tech,
This
yeah.
is yeah. It was the sector that they kind of worked within. And one of the things you automatically started seeing were these small company owners being like, I had $4 million in my bank account, and oh, the federal government's telling me I'm only going to get 250,000. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills that way. Oh, I only have 25 million. And one of the things that Treasury Secretary Yellen immediately announced yesterday was that the federal government was not going to be insuring all of the deposits, that they were not going to be bailing out this bank, that this bank was going to go down, and a lesson was going to have to be learned.
Right.
Those people who are in the know understand that the FDIC insured cap on bank account deposits is 250,000. It used to be 100,000.
Right.
I was researching earlier today. There was actually increased to 250,000. And I was very disappointed earlier today when it was announced by the Treasury Secretary and her department that indeed the federal government is going to be insuring the deposits of all account holders with the bank, that the federal government was going to make good on all $250 billion that the bank had in deposits, irregardless, excuse me, of how many funds were actually active in the bank. I think we've gone on months. I think if you go back to when we did our fourth anniversary show in 1998, when I did my whole hour on fractional banking.
Yes.
How
still a
it was just
still one of our most downloaded episodes.
It was an epic rant about how it should be true. It's morally corrupt for banks to be able to create money by, in some instances, lending out at an 8-to-1 ratio money that they had in deposits within the bank, literally creating money as if they were printing it themselves. But let's not talk about that.
No.
So I actually was sat there and be like, well, here's a bank that made a big bet on low interest rates, that they had lost, I believe it was $20 billion that they had been, I think that's a big number. I'm not really sure I'm right on that one. But that they had to, but they had made a bet on low interest rates,
right.
And the bonds that they had purchased were coming up and were basically worthless. As they were going to have to rebuy at much larger interest rates. But this isn't the financial hour. I'm not Jim Cramer, but it is my rant this week. My beef of the week is that once again, the federal government is going to come and bail out with their big coffers another bank, another financial institution that basically was pretty happy running on its own, keeping profits for itself. Not basically, they were not playing 50-50 with the federal government. If things went well for banks, they keep the money, they profit themselves. And when things go bad, the federal government steps in and taxpayer Joe and Jane get to foot the bill. Just outraging me because when push comes to shove, the actual taxpayer gets screwed by the federal government. We got $600 during the pandemic. And yet the banks are going to get billions of dollars. And there's already talk that Signature Bank is going down. First Republic, I think in Portland or the Pacific, somewhere there. So I expect a very busy week on Wall Street. A lot of banking industry. Small companies will be going out. It's a scary time.
We had asked Matt, our producer, to shift the considerable funds in the podcast account into an account in the Cayman Islands. He unfortunately was a little coked up at the time, moved it to the Canary Islands. We are now uncertain as to if we will see that money again either. But yeah, I mean, it's Joe Public, it's Joe Q Public,
sure,
that ends up paying the price at the end of the day.
Yeah, it genuinely a visceral anger there. Ron,
yes,
what's bothering you?
So my beef of the week, and I mean this beef with love. I guess I should preface this by making that statement. Is my beef is attempting to teach a new game to a table full of drunk people. So we had
please speak more.
We had a little get together for my birthday this weekend. We're playing some games. One of them a new game called You Lion Sack. It was a joint venture between Penn and Teller and the folks that made Exploding Kittens and some other games. And I had to attempt to explain it to the people at the table who said, oh, let's just play a practice round. And I think an hour later, we were still attempting to get through the practice round with most of the table trying to understand what the dice was being used for. It was stressful. There was yelling. I think there was probably some cursing. There was
you were definitely getting upset. You were definitely getting upset. And now, can I, as one of the drunk people at the table?
Sure.
Okay. First off, you were leaving out that we played a very fun game.
Oh, we did.
before
Yes.
This.
Yes.
This wasn't a start. We started playing. What is it called?
It's called left, right, center.
It is played with 3 dice that are marked with either a C, an L, an R, or a dot. And you roll the dice. You're sitting with 3 individual $1 bills, and based on the roll, you either move a dollar to the left, to the right. You put it in the center. It's a nice little. I wouldn't say it's a gambling game. I would say it's a game of chance.
Correct.
But it was a game where, what were we have? 8 people at the table.
8 people, each putting up $3.
Everybody was having a good time.
They were.
We had played multiple times, and everybody was enjoying themselves. I would say it was getting raucous in a good way.
It was definitely raucous. I would say some individuals were very intense. I think some individuals were sweating profusely. I think some individuals were handing more of their money to others than some.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to say who.
I got a little stressed out. I'm not going to lie.
I think
I got a little stressed out.
So I won the first round, so that was exciting. Of course,
we let you in because it was your birthday.
I believe Matt won the second game. My favorite was the third game, where it came down to where you had $1 and somebody else on the other side of the table had $1.
I believe it was one of the Jardies.
So that means whoever rolls the center is going to win the pot. Instead,
Correct.
Brian rolls an R, gives me his $1. The turn goes around to the other side of the table, and the person with the other $1 throws a C, giving me the win right off the bat.
Yep, you didn't even have to do anything. You just said
do a damn thing. With people cursing. Did Brian have back sweat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. But see, this is where you made a very tactical error. Is that while we were still having fun playing this game, you were like, "All right, now let's go. Let's break out this new game that none of you have ever played or heard of." What you did not do, and I don't mean to victim blame here, but I'm going to victim blame you.
All right.
You did not look at the instructions well enough to grasp the concept that this was a semi-confusing game for people who were going to be as inebriated as that table was. Had that table been full of sober people, I don't believe you would have had a problem. However, you're taking people who are
read the room better. I could have
sure.
Better.
This you did not do. You basically said, like, hey, this is my birthday weekend. I just bought this game and I want us to play this game. And we respected that until you started to take out the game and you started showing us how it's played in the rules. And first off, the rules were confusing. The idea here is there's a brightly colored yellow sack. I would say it's like a burlap material, like a nylon-y, burlap-y kind of thing. And inside are red triangle foam pieces. There are a whole slew of them, and there's one blue plastic piece. And what you're supposed to do is take out a number of the foam pieces or the blue piece, and then you have to hold your hand up and ask the person, do they want to take the foam pieces in their hand, or do they want to bet that you're holding the blue instead? Not really a great game to begin with, but but there was also a board
game,
But there was a board, there was a dial, you're rolling a dice. People were very confused as to the purpose of this dice. And the worst part, and this is where I think you have to once again read the room, is that people started to pick up that you were getting a little frustrated.
Listen, I'm just saying.
And for people like myself, when I see that everybody in the room's having fun and one person is taking things a little too seriously, I'm just going to start poking and prodding. So that's at that point where I started asking you questions about the game that I knew you had already answered. But it was just fun to watch you just get a little angrier and a little angrier each time.
The thing is I switched the game mostly for your benefit. I saw what the stress of the game was doing to you. At one point, your lady leaned over, ran her head across your forehead, not realizing how much you were sweating, and seemed disgusted at the time. The people. Although I will say, my wife and one of the members of the Jardis were saying that they were going to take me out back and kill me if I won again. So it was tense. It was just very, very tense.
But I would say also a very good time.
Also a very good time, without a doubt.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Also, let's acknowledge Allie here for a moment. I am a tremendous friend.
Yeah, I mean, she sees it, she calls it as it is.
Yes.
Congratulations going out to Lauren Boebert, representative from Colorado. Last week at CPAC, she called to cut funding to schools that taught students comprehensive sex education. And now this week, at a Moms for America event, she announced that her son, Tyler, is going to be making her a 36-year-old grandmother come April.
Now, this is the same woman who is voting against sex education in schools.
Right.
Like, it is, once again, these people genuinely do believe that anytime God grants a life onto this planet, it is a beautiful thing as long as the baby stays in utero. We've spoken about this before. But there is absolutely nothing to be shamed by a 16-year-old boy becoming a father. The age of the girl that he has gotten pregnant has not been disclosed, other than Lauren Boebert has said that the girl is older than 14.
Well, that's good at least.
This is not good.
Well, I mean, older than 14. I mean, you have to try and find a little bit of decency where you can.
Ron, I was not ready to be a father at 32, let alone when I was half that at 16. This is a child. This is a child having a baby. And his mother, who's a fucking just a human sponge for a brain, is going to be a grandmother at, what is she, 32?
36.
36. Oh, my goodness.
And she apparently also, according to her, made her mother a grandmother at the age of 36 as well.
Fucking hell.
Which, so if you do the math, so that means Lauren Boebert was 19 when she had her son. That would have mean Lauren Boebert's mother was 17 when she had her. Mm-hmm. So it's a long tradition of teen pregnancies in the Boebert family.
So then isn't she saying that wrestler impregnated her mother when she was 17?
I guess Sweet Stan Lane, I believe, is the wrestler you're thinking of.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I don't remember Stan Lane.
He was more NWA, more
from the South.
From the South, yeah. I'm sure.
Right now, Billy is furiously typing. He's furious. But no, that's not true, because Billy's distracted right now because it's WrestleMania.
No, it's not WrestleMania. It's Academy Awards.
Not WrestleMania?
Not yet. No. You have a couple weeks still.
Oh, really? I thought this was WrestleMania.
No, you are incorrect. I don't want to correct you, but you are wrong.
Okay. Oh, no. It's I don't know everything, but there we go. Did a little Wikipedia search and nice.
Yeah, Sweet Stan 69.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Brian, what was your favorite story of this past week?
Ooh. We're gonna have to going all the way up to New Fairfield, Connecticut, where my story of the week involves my favorite lunch lady. New Fairfield. Do you have a photo? Do we have a photo? Can we put one up? See, right off the bat, this is a misleading photo, Ron, because right off the bat, people are going to recognize this as a mugshot.
They are, yes.
So right off the bat, we're going to know that this woman has been arrested. You are looking at Andy Page Rosefort, who is 31 years old. And up until earlier this week, she was a lunch lady in New Fairfield, Connecticut at the local middle school, New Fairfield Middle School. What was she arrested for, you say? Well, she was arrested for sexually assaulting a 14-year-old boy who was a freshman at her school. The police came across nude photographs and videos that Rosefort had been sending to the boy via Instagram and Snapchat over a recent 6-month period. The boy, who was 14 at the time, said that she had struck up a conversation, a dialogue with him, had obtained his social media credentials, and they went back and forth. Then one day, out of nowhere, asked him, quote unquote, want to see something? And before he had a chance to reply, she sent him a nude photograph of herself. He responded, and this is in the police documents. The boy responded, "Oh, I think you sent me something by mistake." At which point he immediately received another naked photo of Andy Page Rosefort. So apparently she is charged with sexually assaulting him. They had multiple sexual encounters, allegedly, including in her car during the school day. And what's worse, what's truly disgusting is she also sent him videos of herself masturbating to a 14-year-old boy. And what's really terrible is that at 14, I had to look for bra catalogs, to find masturbatory material when I was 14.
You give me some relief.
Let alone this woman sending nude videos. And let's just say that she was immediately fired from her job. Right. And she has been ruled by a judge banned from interacting with any children other than her own.
Probably a good thing.
Now, I know it's very easy as a white male to sit there and make some jokes of, hey, the lunch ladies didn't look like that when I was in school. Or, hey, I don't know how bad I feel for this kid. I wouldn't have minded that when I was 14. But this is still sexual assault. It's a crime. It's a child. She's an adult. And this woman deserves to be behind bars. Ron?
Yes.
What's your story of the week?
So my story of the week, Brian, it involves a bill that would have prohibited minors from getting married in the state of West Virginia. Currently, children can marry as young as age 16 in West Virginia with parental consent.
Makes perfect sense.
Anyone younger than that must also get a judge's waiver. Democratic delegate Kayla Young in the state Senate put forth a bill that would prohibit that. It passed the state Senate and then was rejected by the Republican-dominated Senate Judiciary Committee on a 9-8 vote. So now there will be, as she says, quote, "For now, there will be no floor for the age of marriage in West Virginia, endangering our kids."
I cannot understand at this point what is the logic for a Republican being against this bill.
So, basically what some of the bill's opponents argued is that teenage marriages are part of life in West Virginia. Kanawha County Republican Senator Mike Stewart, a former federal prosecutor who sided with the majority, said his vote, quote, wasn't a vote against women. He said his mother was married when she was 16 and, quote, 6 months later, I came along. I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Oh, fuck.
So the bill would have established that 18 is the age of consent and removed the ability of a minor to obtain consent through either parents, legal guardians, or court petition. All existing legal marriages would still be honored.
Well, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah. Although recent figures are unavailable, according to the Pew Research Center, West Virginia had the highest rate of child marriages among the states back in 2014, when the state's 5-year average was 7.1 marriages for every 1,000 children ages 15 to 17.
Fucking hell. I mean, it's like we're getting worse. We're getting worse as an entity.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not quite sure how you can argue making the age of consent or the age of marriage 18.
I don't understand it. It just doesn't make. I'm just struggling with the logic here.
Yeah, and it's a good point from Janelle, also out in Arkansas, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders recently signed a bill kind of changing the child labor laws, allowing kids under 12 now to work.
What?
You didn't see that in the news?
No.
Yeah.
Run that by me again.
So it lowered, because I think the earliest age you can get working papers is 14. I think it has moved that bar down to like 10 or 11 for certain jobs, not every job. I think you can operate. I think you can get your forklift certification at age 11 still.
Sure.
I think drill presses, things like that. But you cannot work the door at a drag show. I believe that's where they draw the line in Arkansas.
Oh my goodness! But they're going after drags, but they can say that it's that a 10-year-old child should go off to work.
I mean, why not? Listen, in Arkansas, if anybody works, because it's such a taking needy state, we need to collect more taxes from everybody there.
Fuck!
Um,
It's just so. It's I don't know. It boggles my mind. It just boggles the mind.
Everyone this past week talking about the story of the group of Americans who were kidnapped at gunpoint during a terrifying shootout between cartel members on the Mexican
Mhm.
border. Two of them found dead, two returned. The story has gone all over the board. The initial
Yes.
story was that a person by the name of Latavia McGee was due for surgery on that Friday, and she was with her friends Shaid Woodard and Zindel Brown, who were killed, and also Eric James McGee. Going for a tummy tuck, apparently, driving from South Carolina to Mexico for a tummy tuck, and then getting kidnapped, and two of them killed by the cartel. Ever since then, social media has been throwing out a lot of interesting information. Brian, I know you have been following this story extensively.
I may have.
What is the current theory on what's going on with these four individuals?
Okay, if we're talking about the government, the U.S. government, they apparently they are sticking to the story that these individual citizens have put forth, that they were going down there for medical treatment. If you listen to what is being spoken about on Black TikTok, now it's one of the TikToks that I always want to be in touch with,
Right.
On social media. Black TikTok is saying that these four were down there to buy drugs, and this is a drug deal gone wrong. Apparently, the medical office that they were going to does not do surgical procedures on Fridays. So the idea that this woman and her three male friends were going down to this border town for a tummy tuck, allegedly does not jive with the ongoing practices of the medical office, as well as the fact that the medical office allegedly has said that this woman had no appointment whatsoever. And when she reached out to the doctor's office, they didn't know who she was. So, and then also, and this is just a little something I'm just going to throw on there. I don't believe it's relevant, but apparently the three males all have extensive drug arrests in their background.
Well, that's a typical
I don't think it's relevant.
Media hunt down right there.
A typical media hunt down, meaning
Like they like whenever something happens to blacks in this country, they typically automatically go for their arrest records.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I just fell right into that trap, and now I feel bad. Shame on me. Shame on me.
What was surprising was the cartel turning over 5 of their members to police and saying, "We're sorry, big mistake on our part."
Listen, there is, I've seen a lot of commentary that there is an unspoken, undocumented agreement between the cartels and the federales, as you would, down in Mexico, which is do not go after Americans and don't go after any tourist attractions.
Right.
Let the American tourists come down. Let them go to Acapulco, go to Cancun. Do not disrupt their the time that they had there, because the dollars there that they're pumping into the economy are significant, as well as it is bad for business for all involved for the American federal government to come down there and start asking questions. That nobody has anything to gain by the FBI coming down to Mexico to start asking about people's business. So it was quickly seen that the whoever was involved in this had fucked up rather largely, which is why they had turned over those 5 cartel members so quickly in hopes that this story dies down.
Well, we will keep an eye on it and see how the story plays out, whether we get the actual story or if we get any follow up at all.
You
We'll
know what?
keep
We
an eye
will
out.
probably get a result of it is a Netflix documentary in
Oh
about
yeah.
4 years. In
Yep.
about 4 years, we'll get a documentary where it'll be like, Metamorphosis, what really happened?
Yes. We'll keep an eye.
8 episodes.
We'll DVR that.
Sure. Which
last-
leads me to my next question, Ron.
Yes.
What are you watching?
So this past week, I watched the documentary on MH370, the Malaysian plane that disappeared. How long ago was that now? 7 years? 9
That
years?
was, I believe it was 9 years.
9 years ago.
I think that was 2014.
Yeah. So it was a 3-episode docuseries talking about different theories. Because at the end of the day, we still don't really know what happened,
No.
where the plane is, where the remains of the passengers are. So it was. I think
I
it's
mean, a little backstory is that it's a flight that took off from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia on its way to Beijing. I think it's like a 6-hour flight. And right as it was going, it had entered the space between Malaysian airspace and Chinese or Vietnamese. I think it was Vietnamese airspace.
yes.
The flight immediately, thank you very much. The flight disappears. So
Right.
there was, it was in this small, very small window of time when there was absolutely, when it was off different radars.
Right. In no man's land, they called it.
Right.
But I will
Or
say,
no persons.
no
land.
persons. Thank you.
I don't want to
Thank
be. I don't want to be genderist.
Correct. I believe it was a few years ago that no man's land asked to be referred to as no person's land.
There we go.
And Ali thought that was a nice transition when that happened. Very nice. So yeah, I think, I know you watched it too, Brian.
Sure.
I don't know what your thoughts were on it. I think the fact that we are deeply into the disinformation age, that this documentary was typical of disinformation being put out to the masses.
Well, I think they blanket it with the concept of there's a plane that had about 280 people on it, if not a couple more. I think it was 277 passengers,
239.
and then 239. I thought it was 277.
You are incorrect.
Oh, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, that's better somehow.
But the idea is that this flight takes off, it is followed on radar, and then it disappears. And that in one of the truly bewildering instances in the aviation industry, no wreckage of this flight is ever found.
Right.
Now, in all other instances where flights have gone missing, eventually pieces of a plane rise to the surface. One of the things that they do is specifically with airplane parts is they make the parts, certain parts buoyant, so that if there is a nautical landing, as they like to call it, which is kind of an oxymoron, if you ask me, except Captain Sully, he pulled off a nautical landing.
He did. That I will agree.
Nobody else other than him. But it was the concept that eventually, if a plane goes down into the middle of the ocean, eventually there are parts that will rise up there. And for, I believe, 2 years, there was a collective search teams that were looking for the wreckage of this plane, and it was never found. It literally is a plane that disappeared. So what they do is they spend pretty much kind of like one episode of, kind of the backstory of what happened. And then they start presenting you with people who have different theories. One of the theories is that the pilot basically crashed the plane, that the pilot distracted the co-pilot to leave the cockpit. In today's post 9/11 world, once somebody is out of the cockpit of a plane, it's impossible to get in because of the locks and whatnot. I can tell I already lost Ron. And then it's the idea that he basically changed the air pressure of the
He depressurized the cabin to knock everybody out.
Correct. So everybody gets knocked out, and he basically changes the course of the plane south, flies for 6 hours, and eventually it lands in the South Indian Ocean. Another theory that they have a news reporter, he thinks that the plane was hijacked by Russian commandos, and the plane was brought to Kazakhstan.
Just because.
Ask the question of like, why does he think this? That's where I think the dangerous part of what you're talking about in terms of disinformation is they never ask the question of why does this make more sense to you than the official version that the plane just disappeared and crashed in the ocean. They never ask that question. So
Well, he even says he does that whole thing that you see some conspiracy theorists do where it's like, listen, I get it. It sounds far-fetched. And I'm
Sure.
going to agree with you that it's far-fetched.
But here's something that could have happened.
But it's not something we can discount at this point.
Right. Which to me is just dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can also make the argument with the same, based on that same logic that he's putting forth, we can make it that suddenly, somehow, aliens came in and swooped up the airplane.
Far-fetched. But you can't discount that it could have.
Can't rule it out. And then they speak to a French reporter who her theory is that the American military blew up the airplane in while it was in this dead zone for radar purposes because it was it had 2 tons of technology that the Chinese government was stealing from the Americans.
Yeah. That they would just put on a commercial flight because that was the easiest way to get it back to the country.
Not really sure what's funny there. I mean, hundreds of people died on that plane. Funny.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like the first most probable theory they put out there is that the pilot, took over the plane, flew it in a murder-suicide mission. They don't really talk about the pilot at all.
No.
They don't really dive into his background and
why would he do something like this? They don't address it.
But 2 episodes later, in the middle of the 3rd episode, they're like, oh yeah, and then it comes out that the flight simulator that they confiscated from the pilot's basement, he flew almost the same exact flight in training routes.
Hold on, did you believe that?
Here's the problem. The problem is that it took so long for that information to come out, 2 years before they released that information, that, it's tough to say. Like, I will agree with the people that were like, Malaysian Airlines wasn't upfront with information, the different governments and agencies investigating it. And that's, unfortunately, like, you get that some of these agencies don't want to release information while there's an ongoing investigation.
Sure.
But when you hold on to it for that long, that's what eventually leads to this distrust and people wanting to come up with other theories and, ridiculous. I mean, it's almost, it was almost libelous the way that they threw accusations around at certain people, but worded it well enough where they're not going to end up getting sued. But it's like, usually in a documentary, you at least see if someone says, maybe the plane was hijacked. All right. There's 239 people on board. If this guy's saying the plane was hijacked, tell us about anyone on the plane that you feel might have had a background or a possibility of hijacking this plane.
And none of that. None of that. None other than, look, there were 3 Russian people on the plane, so therefore it was the Russians. These guys were all commando. No research on who these 3 guys were. Right. For all we know, they were businessmen that were on their way to died a tragic death. I found the argument of that the Malaysian government was not more forthcoming with information. Call me ignorant or call me gullible here. But it doesn't sound like they had much information to talk about.
Right.
This plane literally vanished as far as they could tell. There was a small detail in radar data that led them to believe that it had gone dramatically off course, had gone severely west, completely in the wrong direction. So that led people to believe that the captain had taken in the wrong direction. But that was all the information. It's not as if they were like, we're sifting through the black box recordings and didn't want to say what it was. They don't have information because they don't have the plane to put together.
Right.
I felt that it was had it not been a true story where 230 some odd
239.
239 people died. This would be just an entertaining story. Like, what do you think happened here?
Right.
But real people died and real families lost family members, and that's a tragic thing. And I just think it's very it's being handled in a very casual manner. There are family members that are going to watch this show, being like, "Oh, maybe they've uncovered something that we don't know about yet." And it's just going to rip open. It's going to rip open some wounds and make those wounds a lot bigger. Speaking of ripping wounds open and making them bigger, did you watch the Jared documentary on Hulu?
Nice transition. Yes, I agree with you, Ali. Nice transition from Brian there. I attempted to watch the first episode of it. I think I got about an hour through, and it was just couldn't watch it anymore. Not because it was that shocking. It was pretty darn boring, is what it was.
It was basically another, like, much like the MH370. This is a 3-part series. Basically, it is they were able to obtain, the producers of this documentary was able to interview a woman who was involved with Jared in a long distance relationship. I don't really believe that it ever got to a point where they were physically intimate, but he had exposed to her, not exposed himself to her, but he had exposed his interest in underage children and having sex with them. So she started to record the phone calls they had. So it seems like the producers had been able to get connected with her, and she had given them copies of these audio tapes. So suddenly you were able to hear Jared in his own voice talking about what he would like to do with underage children. Some of it was really gross to have to listen to. And at the same time, I don't believe that it added anything to the overall story of Jared.
Right.
You didn't learn much more about who he was or why he was this way. There really was no after the fact of, like, coming to terms with who he was, or it kind of just felt this woman really wanted to just put her story out and have her 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was watching it and I was like, you know what? I feel Brian will get through this and will give me a heads up as to whether I need to continue or not.
Not worth it. Was
All right.
definitely not worth your time.
That's all I've been watching. Season finale of The Last of Us tonight. So I will be catching up with that tomorrow. And now that all the episodes are streaming, I hope you will be checking
I
it
will
out.
start watching it.
All right, good to know.
I will definitely start watching it.
Last week, we talked about the state of Tennessee, how the governor was ready to sign an anti-drag bill while photos had surfaced of him dressing in drag himself. That was just one of many multiple bills in Tennessee that targets LGBTQ people and culture. Comes out this week that the lieutenant governor of Tennessee, Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, who also serves as Speaker of the State Senate, has been frequently commenting from his verified Instagram account on shirtless photos of a gay young man. We have what was the name of the paper that put it out there? The Tennessee Holler put it out there.
Holla! Sorry.
That Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, age 79, has left supportive and arguably flirtatious comments and emojis under risque social media photos posted by Franklin McClure, a 20-year-old performer from Knoxville who goes by Franklin Superstar on social media. We'll need to give him a follow on the Instagram.
Do we have to?
In a response to a photo of McClure dancing outside in his underwear, McNally wrote, quote, "Love it," with heart emojis. And another close-up photo of McClure's backside where he's wearing what only appear to be briefs. McNally wrote 2 comments: "Finn, you can turn a rainy day into rainbows and sunshine," and another with hearts and fire emojis.
No.
In another image where McClure's shorts are pulled down a little, that's that photo right here on the screen, McNally commented, "Super look, Finn," which is McClure's nickname according to his Facebook page. McNally posted more than 80 comments on McClure's Instagram account that date back as early as June 2020.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think, if you take his press secretary at their word, saying, he comments supportively to all his constituents, which I'm not exactly sure if this is a constituent or not.
Probably
It
not.
is. It's interesting, to say the least. You could question the appropriateness of his commentary. It's just interesting that this 79-year-old lieutenant governor is commenting on a 20-year-old's thirst trap photos.
Sure.
I mean, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this. It is not shocking to me that you have someone who has denied others the rights to live an open lifestyle, to be somehow also leading that same lifestyle, but undisclosed. And once again, and one of the things that scares me is that a lot of these people who are, these better than thous who are guilty, aren't really fully aware of social media, how it works, some of the privacy games that you can play, where you've got, using their main account and not a burner account to like these things. And it's just, listen, if there's nothing wrong with being who you are, but to sit there and be elected to public office so that you can take away the rights of others, meanwhile, you're doing these very same things, ultimate in hypocrisy. And to me, it should be worthy of being thrown out of office.
Agreed. One of the more disturbing stories of the week, a phony Hasidic dad who found social media acclaim for adopting 9 boys has been charged with sexually abusing most of them while out on bond in an earlier child sex case. We got a photo here of this gentleman with the children in question. This is Chaim Nassim Cohen, age 38. He regularly blogged about his, quote, unique family in Houston. He had about 200,000 followers on TikTok. He also claimed to be a Hasidic Jew from Brooklyn, despite being born Jeffrey Lujan Vagel in Texas. He was busted last month after one of his sons went on a podcast to anonymously report being raped and abused.
Ugh.
So the terrified 17-year-old boy told the podcaster that he'd been sexually assaulted since he was 11, weeks after his adoption, and claimed many of his brothers were also abused.
So fucking sad.
Yeah, it is. 5 of the other children have now also come forward, with Cohen facing 12 charges. The 6 children, ages 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, and 17, have since been taken into care. While 3 others, this is interesting. The 3 other children appeared to support their dad in court.
Now, do you think this is a case where he was actually molesting them all, or do you think this is something where he was, taking away their Nintendo Switch, and therefore this is how they're going to get back at him?
It's tough to say. Prosecutors say that he kept the kids locked in a room for most of the day, only letting them out at 4 p.m. When he would sometimes force them to perform sex acts, allegedly. One of the alleged victims, now 16, said Cohen would pepper spray him if he refused to give in. It is interesting that you have 6 claiming abuse and 3 defending him. The interesting question is, from the religious standpoint, being adopted into what would appear to be an Orthodox Jewish family, was that the religion of the children before he adopted them, or did they have to convert? And is that something that possibly
adopting Jewish boys?
All right.
Yeah.
But if it is being part of that Orthodox Jewish lifestyle, which can be very restrictive, is this potentially causing these kids to claim something that didn't happen? I mean, the fact that he was already out on bail for another sex abuse case, makes it seem like he probably did it.
I would. My instinct is that he's guilty.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not up to me to decide innocence or guilt. It is, up to the prosecutor and a jury and a judge. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm just going to say, just really just a terrible story.
Yeah, one of the worst ones we've had in quite a while, to say the least.
Now, Ron, you were telling me how a lot of Orthodox Jews were moving into your neighborhood.
Yeah, yes, we have a new school that opened up here recently. In fact, they were having their opening ceremony earlier today up the road.
So that's such a wonderful thing.
It is. I think
Ron, today
the diversity of my neighborhood
Sure.
is one of the things that keeps us here.
It's one of the things I love about your neighborhood is that hate has no home there. Ron, are you excited? Are you excited? Tonight is the 143rd Oscars, the Academy Awards. Are you excited for them? They should be kicking off any moment now.
I mean, I think that did they start at 8 or did they start at 9? I mean,
I have no idea.
We sacrifice red carpet coverage every Oscar season to be here preparing and doing this podcast. And that's really the part I miss the most.
It looks like Jamie Lee Curtis has won for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Did you see that movie?
I did, yes.
How was it? I never heard of it until just recently.
I mean, it was a good movie. It is very much out there. It's one of those movies where, you watch it and you're still not 100% sure what you watched by the end of it. Like it's a kind of a sci-fi multiverse type storyline. So it's a little hard to follow, but Jamie Lee Curtis was excellent in it. No doubt.
Now, was she better in this, or was she better in the Cutting Knives movie that she did for Netflix?
Knives Out. I mean,
Knives Out. There we go.
She was good in Knives Out. I would say she was even better in this movie.
How does she rate here to when she played in Halloween?
I think her acting skills have come a long way since Halloween. So I would say
now,
better in this.
If you had to compare her in this movie to when she was in Halloween 2, how would you?
Probably very similar.
Now, if you had to compare her to Halloween,
This time's gotta stop.
Sorry, hated to cut you off there. All I can say is, if Brendan Fraser doesn't win Best Actor for The Whale, it's completely bogus.
Now, here's the question. Why do any of us give a shit for the Oscars after what they did to Chris Rock a year ago? I actually will not be watching any of the Oscars. I know that we're going to be doing After Dark in a half an hour.
Right.
For our Patreon subscribers at the bronze level or higher. Jump on board right now. If you are not, you'll be able to live stream at least 30 minutes of additional material that we don't think is ready for the live show. It's not appropriate for the kids.
Sure.
If you know what I'm getting at. Go to our website, ronandbrianpodcast.com. Click the link in the upper right-hand corner for as little as $5 a month. You will help support the show. The money goes to Ron and I. We take that money, reinvest it into the show. It goes to offset some of the ongoing costs that we incur to keep this show going every week in, week out for you.
For me.
For you. And we will be doing that in a half an hour from now. But, I am still bitter, and it has nothing to do with having seen the Chris Rock comedy special a week ago. Oddly, he waited for like 1 year.
Shocking.
A little timing. But the idea that they allowed an actor to get on stage and physically assault a presenter, turn around, walk back to his chair, and not face any repercussions for the next hour and a half while he sat there waiting to receive his Best Actor award, then get up there and give a speech like nothing's happened.
Right.
And, he's had a life of adversity. And, he gets his, you guys really love me speech. Meanwhile, he just assaulted someone right in front of your eyes. And the fact that they waited until after the Oscars, after he had gotten his award, for the Academy to do something about it. I intend to never watch the Oscars again.
Very problematic, without a doubt. One thing we haven't talked about in a while, Brian, it's stonks.
Stonks.
So we all know Jim Cramer from CNBC, host of Mad Money.
Bye.
So he taking some flack this week because just a month ago he had encouraged people to invest in that Silicon Valley Bank that you discussed
Sure.
during your beef of the week that crashed. Well, now there is an ETF that will let investors bet against Jim Cramer's stock picks. You can actually kind of hedge your bets a little bit. There is one ETF. It's called the Inverse Cramer Tracker ETF, where you can bet against the Mad Money host.
Right.
And then there is another one where you can actually follow his picks. It's called the Long Cramer Tracker ETF. You can purchase those. Do you have the stock symbols for these ETFs, Brian?
I do not.
Son of a God damn it.
I'm sorry.
Brian, you are a longtime detractor of Jim Cramer. What is your thoughts on this?
I believe Jim Cramer is he is how do I say this? He is an actor who plays a role of a stock how do I say a stock advisor on public television. However, I don't believe that his he sits there and tells you what you should buy and what you should sell, and it's very theatrical. There's noises. He hits horns. And you're supposed to sit there and he's like, buy. And then he's supposed to be like, no, sell. And then, and somehow like you're supposed to make money doing it. And the one thing that people have, put together, the pieces of the puzzle, is that he doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. He has no better ratio of hitting winners than Ron Stunk Daddy. And as such, it's to sit there and see that somebody is going out and openly mocking his inability to guess correctly. I'm saying let's put some money in it.
All right. So we have some money burning a hole in our account over at Schwab. It's been a little dicey for us. So
Sure.
now let's get some prices here. So we've got the SJIM is the Inverse Cramer Tracker. Currently,
so you do well when he does poorly.
when he does poorly. So it opened at a little under $25 when they opened this back last week. Currently trading at $25.47. So up about 2%. Let me see if we've got a price on the LGIM. Hold on here.
Hello there. So now the LGIM, now that's for people that want to bet with his stock picks.
Correct. That one also opening up, let me see here. That was opened up around the same, a little bit higher. It actually opened up around $26 a share. Now down to $24.02, down 7.3% in the past 5 days. So early on, if you had bet against Jim Cramer, you would have made some money.
Yeah, so we may I may put some money in this.
All right. Can we get in one more story before we get out of here?
Of course we can.
And so this is it's for me going on a vacation. This is a terrifying story. It is about a Hawaii snorkeling company that allegedly left a couple alone in the ocean. The couple is now suing this tour company for, I think it's $5 million. But obviously they took one of these excursions while they were honeymooning out in Hawaii. They went out into the ocean with a group of people, and they were the boat left without them. They were left out there. They literally had to swim to shore at whatever island they were close to, and then a local loaned them a cell phone so they could so that they could call the tour company and have somebody come and pick them up. But I mean, that's horror movie storyline right there. Like that would just that's. I do these excursions. We've been snorkeling a couple times when we've been on vacation. I would say that is easily one of my biggest fears, that they just kind of leave us behind.
Wow. That's pretty. So you've gone snorkeling.
Correct. I have. I've done it a few times. Yes.
Can you walk me through how, Okay, my question, this is going to sound incredibly ignorant.
Sure.
How do you not drown snorkeling? Because my understand is it's a mouth thing that's
Right.
just hooked to a little tube that's supposed
Correct.
to go that stays above water.
It does, yes. So, I mean, basically, you can do two things. I mean, one thing you can do, like we did snorkeling with the sea turtles down in Mexico, like
Mhm.
that. The snorkel allows you to like put your face underwater and kind of look down there while you're breathing above the water. Now, if you want to dive down, what you do is you take a breath and then you basically dive underwater, holding your
Mhm.
breath, and then you come back up so you can breathe again. So you can't. The snorkel does not allow you to stay under like scuba gear does.
So you're not actually swimming underwater for the most part when you go snorkeling.
Right. You can go for short periods, however long you can hold your breath, but it's mostly you can also swim along the top of the water and look down while being able to breathe through your breathing tube there.
That's my. I have such a visceral fear of drowning, and I say visceral in the sense of it just feels like that's how I'm going to go out. Like I don't think I'm going to get hit by a car and die that way.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm going to, I don't know, make something up. But something about drowning, just I do feel connected with it somehow, and it scares the death out of me because people say it's a terrible way to die.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's good. Like I've gotten water in my mouth and started to choke a bit while snorkeling, and yeah, I can't imagine dying that way. I'm sure it'd be horrific.
Terrible.
One last story. I do like this one. Going down to Maryland, a Maryland mother had allegedly assaulted a 12-year-old girl she accused of bullying her daughter after she was let into the school and just went straight for the student. Kelly
Right.
Static, age 41, gained entry into Aberdeen Middle School about 8:15 a.m. on Tuesday using the intercom. But instead of going to the office, she headed to a classroom along with her daughter. A
Mhm.
verbal confrontation ensued. And then at one point, the mother placed her hands on the child, grabbing them in an effort to continue the conversation until a teacher intervened. Police said that the mother left a, quote, pretty nice sized red mark and bruise on the girl's arm. So now
Jeez.
people obviously, parents are up in arms that this parent was just able to go into the school and get into a classroom and basically physically assault the student.
Yeah, but she was also not armed.
But what if she had been?
Uh, that's not the point. The point is she wasn't an angry teenager.
So she has been charged with second-degree assault and trespassing. The father of the girl that was assaulted said, "quote She could have had a weapon. She could have had anything. That's the most frightening part about her."
Jesus, that is just some
Oh, and
scary
Allie's
stuff.
saying she's proud of that. That's not behavior to be proud of.
That's not all right. That is just not okay.
Yeah,
Not okay at all.
yeah.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, I think we get ready for after dark.
Yep.
I think we work on our energy level. We see how high up. I mean, what on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think, Brian, you started this show at?
I would say I started at a 8. I think
Oh,
I'm,
Janelle agrees with you. Janelle said you started at an 8 as well.
and then I think I had a good transition, and I think I finished. I think I finished close to about a 7. Also, Janelle's not surprised. She also feels that.
Yeah. Also, on After Dark, I want to talk about the Ozzy Osbourne police car that I purchased. I think it's going to be a unique piece to have. Janelle's excited. She said, "Get ready for Sabbath sirens." It's like she knew. I mean, she commented that minutes ago.
That's good.
It's the tequila, without a doubt.
I love it. I
Um,
love it.
Anyway, this has been episode 248. We are just
Yes.
a couple weeks away from episode 250. We're trying to put some special things together for 250. It's going to be
Okay.
a good time. Here's the question,
Yes.
and I just had this thought. Do we do an extra long episode for episode 250?
Oh, You're saying maybe skip After Dark and just keep going?
I'm saying maybe, push the pajama party to the first Sunday in April, and then we do like a 2-hour podcast.
I'm good with that.
All right. I think we look to do that. Make it a mega special. Mega special, Jerry. All right. Well, let's go get ready.
Right.
Let's go. I'm gonna get a little bit more.
I have to go.
tequila.
I'm going to go change my shirt and put a little tie on.
You're gonna wipe off the back sweat too? Oh.
Oddly, there's no back sweat right now.
All right, good to know. Good to know.
Thank you.
Well, Patreon folks, we will see you in 20 minutes. Everybody else, we will catch you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com.